family reunion began, and my mom told me to sit in the hallway until people settle. I blinked at her because I genuinely thought I'd misheard. The living room behind her was already full of noise. Cousins yelling greetings, a toddler squealing, the TV blaring some old music channel because someone's always putting on vibes, and Mom had that tight smile she wears when she's trying to look calm for other people. She kept one hand on my shoulder like she was guiding me somewhere safe, except the place she guided me was the narrow hallway outside the dining room, between the shoe rack and the coat hooks. "Just for a bit," she murmured, lips barely moving. "Until people settle. You know how it gets." Her nails pressed lightly through my shirt, not painful, just directive, like she was placing an object out of the way. I could smell perfume and roast meat and that sharp citrus cleaner she uses right before guests arrive. My throat went dry. I glanced past her and caught a flash of my aunt's face turning toward us, curious, and Mum's hand tightened as if to remind me not to react. "Please," she whispered, and the word didn't feel like a request. It felt like a warning. It took me a second to move because my body did that thing where it freezes first, like it's checking whether this is real. I stepped into the hallway because Mum's hand didn't leave my shoulder until I did, and as soon as I crossed the threshold, she slid in front of me like a curtain, blocking me from the room. She smoothed her hair, lifted her chin, and turned back toward the living room with the same bright hostess voice she'd been practicing all morning. "Oh my God, look at you," she called, laughing too loud. The laughter from the room swallowed her up. I stood there in the hallway with my hands hanging uselessly by my sides, staring at the family photo wall we hadn't updated in years. My own face, 13 years old, stuck in a frame with a chipped corner. The sound of my name floated past once, someone asking, "Is she here?" And Mum answered quickly, "She'll come in a second," like I was still getting dressed. I could feel heat crawling up the back of my neck. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. And the stupidest part was how normal everyone else sounded, as if the reunion hadn't just started with me being told to wait in the hallway like a delivery that arrived early. It sounds dramatic when I type it out, which is part of why I didn't tell anyone in the moment. If you've never been the person your family quietly manages, it probably reads like a bizarre one-off. But this wasn't a one-off. This was just the first time Mum had said the quiet rule out loud. The reunion was at my parents' place because Mum is the kind of person who needs the host to feel in control. She'd been planning it for weeks. Group chats, lists, cleaning sprees at midnight, the whole performance. "We need this," she'd said to me last Sunday, standing in the kitchen with a sponge in her hand like she was about to scrub the grout into obedience. "Your grandmother's getting older. Everyone's busy. We have to make the effort." By we, she meant mostly her and also me because I'm always the one who gets recruited to carry the invisible parts. I'd helped her fold napkins and move furniture and chop vegetables. I'd listened while she rehearsed conversations she wanted to have with relatives. I'd watched her check her reflection in the microwave door and adjust her smile like it was part of the outfit. She'd asked me twice, casually, if I was going to be okay today. I'd said yes. Because what else do you say when okay is the cost of admission? For context, I'm 29. I'm not a teenager sneaking into adult space. I have a job. I pay rent. I live 2 suburbs away in my own apartment. I came because Grandma asked me to. Grandma called last week and said, "You'll be there, won't you, love?" And her voice did that soft wobble it gets when she's hoping for something without wanting to pressure anyone. I said yes immediately. I love my grandmother in a way that is both warm and painful because she's one of the only people in my family who sees me without editing. My relationship with Mom is complicated in the way families always call complicated when they don't want to say we've built our love around conditions. Mom loves me, I know she does. She also loves peace more. She loves appearances more. She loves the version of me that is easy to place in the room like a well-behaved ornament. When I was a kid, she'd tell me, "Don't be shy," and then in the next breath, "Don't make a scene." When I got older and started pushing back, she started using softer language that meant the same thing. Just be pleasant. Just let it go. Just smile. I learned early that my emotions weren't dangerous because they were big. They were dangerous because other people could see them. The last couple of years have been rough for me in a way my family doesn't know how to handle. Nothing that makes a neat story. No dramatic emergency that forces them into sympathy. Just a slow accumulation of things, burnout, anxiety that shows up in my body like nausea, a breakup that shook my sense of safety, a stretch of depression where I went quiet and people decided quiet meant rude. I got therapy. I got better in some ways. I also got more honest. And honesty is basically profanity in my family. Mom has her own version of my story that she tells to relatives. She's sensitive. She struggles. She takes things to heart. It sounds compassionate if you say it with the right tone, but it also makes me sound like a fragile object everyone has to handle carefully. It makes me sound like the reason she's stressed. And the thing about being labeled fragile is that people feel entitled to set you aside for your own good. So, standing in the hallway while my family reunion began, I understood exactly what Mom was doing. She wasn't trying to protect me from being overwhelmed. She was trying to protect everyone else from me being visible. The hallway was narrow and warm. Someone had piled shoes in a crooked row that I had to step around. I could hear laughter from the living room, the clink of ice in glasses, my uncle's booming voice telling the same story he always tells. The air smelled like perfume and onions and that sweet baked ham glaze. I stared at the framed photos again because it was something to do with my eyes. There was my brother at graduation, my cousins at weddings, my parents in front of some holiday landmark smiling like actors. There were very few photos of me after age 16. I'd never noticed that before. Or maybe I had, and I'd filed it away in the same mental drawer as everything else. Don't make it a thing. After maybe 2 minutes, maybe 10, time is weird when you try not to panic. My aunt walked past the hallway entrance on her way to the kitchen. She saw me standing there and paused. "Oh," she said, surprised. Soit fort. Why are you?" Mum's voice cut in immediately from the living room, bright and firm. "She's just taking a minute," she called without looking. "It's noisy in there." My aunt's eyebrows lifted slightly. She gave me a quick, sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah," she said, like she'd been handed an explanation she couldn't challenge. "Well, come in when you're ready." Then she walked away. I felt this sharp little sting of humiliation, like my presence had been interpreted as a symptom. Like I was the kind of person who needs a special gentle ramp into a room. I wanted to walk straight into the living room right then. I wanted to prove I could. I wanted to put my body in the center of the space and force everyone to adjust around me for once. But my stomach had already started twisting, and my brain was already doing math. If I go in now, Mum will say later that I embarrassed her. If I stay here, I'll feel small. If I leave, I'll be dramatic. Every option had a punishment attached. Then my grandma's voice floated through, closer. "Where's my girl?" she called, and I heard the way the room softened around her. People always soften around Grandma because she's tiny and sweet and old enough that nobody wants to be the one who upsets her. "Where is she?" Mum laughed too brightly. "She's here, Mom," she said. "She's just—" Grandma interrupted, sharper than usual. "Just what?" There was a pause, a shift. Even from the hallway, I could feel it. Mum's voice went careful. "She's just having a moment. You know how she gets." My chest tightened so hard it hurt. You know how she gets. Like I was a weather pattern everyone had to plan around. I stepped forward without fully deciding to. I could feel my legs moving before my brain caught up. I rounded the corner and entered the living room. The noise hit me like a wave. Heat, bodies, perfumes layered on perfumes. My cousins were clustered near the couch, drinks in hand. My uncle was in the armchair like he owned it. My brother stood near the kitchen pass-through, looking relaxed in the way he always looks at family events, like he's wearing an invisible shield of being the safe child. Mum stood near the table, half turned toward Grandma, smile frozen. And Grandma, small, stubborn, was sitting upright on the edge of the couch, scanning the room until she spotted me. Her face changed instantly, softening into relief. "There you are," she said, and she held her arms out like I was 8 again. I crossed the room and hugged her. Grandma smelled like lavender and those little strawberry sweets she always keeps in her handbag. Her hands patted my back twice, then held on. "Are you all right?" she whispered in my hair. I pulled back and smiled. Yeah, I lied automatically, then tried again. I'm okay. Grandma's eyes flicked past me to Mom, then back. Something tightened in her expression. Why weren't you in here? She asked, still softly, but the question had weight. My stomach dropped. Mom's smile sharpened. I felt everyone's attention tilt toward us like a spotlight, slowly turning. I could have covered for Mom. I've covered for Mom my whole life. I could have said, I was just getting water, or I was just overwhelmed. I could have taken the blame and saved Mom the discomfort of being seen. Instead, the words came out before I could soften them. Mom told me to wait in the hallway until people settled. I said. The room didn't go silent completely, but it got noticeably quieter. My uncle stopped mid-laugh. My cousin paused with her drink halfway to her mouth. My brother's eyes flicked to Mom, then to me. Mom's face went bright red in the span of breath. Oh my God, she said, laughing too loudly. I didn't tell you. Don't make it sound like she waved her hand. You looked overwhelmed. I said you could take a second. That's all. Grandma's gaze stayed on Mom. In the hallway, Grandma repeated, and her voice was calm in a way that sounded dangerous. Mom's smile faltered. Mom, she said, warning. Grandma didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Why would she need to sit in the hallway? She asked. To make you comfortable? Mom blinked rapidly. It's not. It is, Grandma said quietly. I'm not stupid. The room held its breath. I could feel my pulse in my ears. My hands were sweating. I wanted to disappear and also wanted to stand taller, both at the same time. My uncle cleared his throat and tried to rescue the atmosphere. All right, he said, chuckling like it was all silly. Let's not start with drama. Hey, it's a reunion. Mom grabbed onto that immediately. Exactly, she said too fast. Can we not do this? Everyone's here. We're meant to be having a nice day. Grandma's eyes flashed. Nice for who, she asked. My brother stepped closer then, not aggressively, just present. Mom, he said quietly, and the disappointment in his voice did something Mom could actually hear. Mom's mouth tightened. She looked around at everyone watching her, then back at me, and her eyes filled with that very particular kind of hurt she uses like a shield. I was trying to help, she said, voice trembling. I was trying to stop you from getting overwhelmed, and then everyone having to... She cut herself off, lips pressed together. Everyone having to what? Deal with me. Watch me. Acknowledge me as a person with feelings. I felt the shame flare again, hot and immediate, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. Shame is such an efficient emotion. It makes you want to fix what other people broke. Grandma reached for my hand. Come sit with me, she said, as if to anchor me physically in the room. I sat beside her on the couch. My knees touched hers. She kept her hand over mine, like she was claiming it. Mom stood there for a moment, breathing fast, then turned and walked toward the kitchen with her head high, like she was the one who'd been attacked. The room slowly exhaled, and conversation tried to restart in fragments. Someone making a joke, someone asking about food, but the tone had changed. The performance had cracked. For the next hour, the reunion continued in that strange, half-normal way families do when something real has surfaced and everyone is pretending they didn't notice. I answered questions about work. I smiled at my younger cousins. I helped Grandma with her tea. Mom avoided my eyes. When she did look at me, her expression was tight, resentful, like I'd ruined her event. At one point, I went into the kitchen to refill water, and Mom was there alone, aggressively chopping herbs as if she could dice her feelings small enough to swallow. She didn't look up at first. Then she said, without turning, "You didn't have to say it like that." I set the jug down slowly. Say what? I asked, though I knew. That I told you to sit in the hallway, she snapped, finally looking at me. Her eyes were shiny. You made it sound like I was ashamed of you. The kitchen smelled like garlic and heat. Were you? I asked quietly. Mom's jaw clenched. I'm not doing this with you, she hissed. Not today. It's always not today, I said, and my voice shook despite my effort to keep it calm. It's always later. It's always don't make a scene. But you literally put me in the hallway like I'm something that needs to be managed. Mom threw the knife down onto the cutting board with a loud smack. Because you do need to be managed sometimes, she burst out, then froze as if she couldn't believe she'd said it. My chest went cold. "Wow," I whispered. Mum's face crumpled for half a second, then hardened again. "You don't see what it's like," she snapped, voice lower now. "You don't see how you change the energy in a room. People get uncomfortable. They don't know what to say to you. You make everything heavy. I was trying to make this smooth." There it was. Smooth. The word that explained everything. My job was to be smooth, to glide through the room without friction, to never make anyone adjust. I swallowed hard. "So you put me in the hallway," I said. Mum's eyes flashed with anger and shame. "I asked you to take a minute," she insisted, rewriting it even as she spoke. "Because you looked like you were about to cry." "I looked like I was about to cry because you told me to sit in the hallway," I said, and my voice cracked. "Do you hear how backwards that is?" Mum pressed her palms to the counter like she needed support. "I can't win with you," she whispered. I laughed softly, not amused. "You're not trying to win," I said. "You're trying to keep everyone comfortable. Even if it costs me." Mum's mouth tightened. "Don't be dramatic," she said automatically, and then flinched as if she knew the word was a reflex. I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I came for Grandma," I said. "I'm going to sit with her and be nice and not ruin your precious smooth day. But I'm not going to pretend what you did was okay." Mum stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Then she looked away and started wiping the counter with a cloth that was already clean. I left the kitchen and went back to the living room, my hands shaking slightly, my stomach churning with that familiar mix of anger and grief. Grandma looked up at me immediately, her gaze sharp. "What did she say?" she asked softly. I sat beside Grandma again and forced a small smile. "Nothing worth repeating." I lied because the truth felt too heavy to drop on her lap when it was her reunion and she'd already fought once. Grandma squeezed my hand. "You don't have to protect her from me," she whispered. That made my throat tighten. I stared at the carpet pattern until my eyes blurred. "I don't know how to stop," I admitted, barely audible. Grandma's voice was gentle but firm. "Then let me do it," she said. Later, when the reunion shifted outside and people started doing the usual rounds, photos, barbecue plates, kids running around, Grandma asked to speak. She stood up slowly, leaning on her cane, and everyone turned because Grandma speaking is rare. Mum froze near the patio door, a plate in her hands. Grandma's voice wasn't loud, but it carried in the quiet that followed. "I want to say something," she began, "because I'm old, and I don't have time anymore to pretend I don't see things." My stomach dropped. Mum's face went pale. Grandma continued, eyes steady. "This family has a habit of making some people feel like they belong more than others. And I've watched it. I've watched it for years." She paused, letting it land. "If anyone in this family is told to sit in a hallway so the rest of you can settle, then you should be ashamed. Because family doesn't require someone to shrink." The silence that followed was thick and stunned. A couple of people looked down at their plates. My uncle cleared his throat, but Grandma's gaze cut him off before he could speak. Mum's hands trembled around the plate. Her face twisted with embarrassment and anger and something like grief. "Mum," she whispered, but Grandma lifted a hand. "No," Grandma said, still calm. "I'm not scolding you to hurt you. I'm telling you because you can still choose differently." Grandma's eyes softened slightly. "And I want my granddaughter," she looked at me, "to know that she does not have to earn her place in this family by disappearing." My eyes burned. I felt tears threaten, hot and immediate. I blinked hard and stared at Grandma's cardigan buttons, trying to hold it together. People shifted uncomfortably. Someone murmured, softly like they wanted Grandma to stop because it was exposing too much. Mum set the plate down on the table with a shaky clatter and walked inside. Not dramatically, not storming. Just leaving like she couldn't breathe under the weight of being seen. I watched her go, and something in me softened in a complicated way. I didn't enjoy watching Mum crumble. I didn't want to punish her. I just wanted her to stop making me the thing she manages. After Grandma's speech, the reunion continued, but the energy was different. People were gentler with me. A couple of cousins asked me quiet questions. "Are you okay?" in a way that felt real. My brother stood closer than usual, like he was offering a silent alliance. My aunt even hugged me at one point and whispered I didn't realize, which I'm not sure I believe, but it was something. Mom stayed inside for a while. When she came back out, her eyes were red and her face was composed in that brittle way she does when she's trying to look normal. She avoided me. She laughed in the wrong places. She complimented someone's salad like it mattered. At the end of the day, when people started leaving and the house emptied into that quiet aftermath, paper plates stacked, leftover containers everywhere, chairs out of place, I stayed behind to help clean because that's another reflex I haven't unlearned yet. Grandma was resting on the couch, dozing lightly. Mom stood in the kitchen, rinsing dishes with stiff movements. Dad dried and put things away without speaking. The silence between us was heavy. Finally, Mom said quietly, without looking at me, I didn't mean to make you feel unwanted. I set a stack of plates down. My hands were tired. My chest felt hollow. But you did, I said softly. Mom swallowed. I thought I was helping, she whispered. Helping who? I asked, not unkindly. Mom's shoulders slumped. Everyone, she admitted. Then, after a beat, me. That honesty was new. It made my throat tighten again. I took a slow breath. I'm not asking you to manage me, I said. I'm asking you to treat me like a person in the room. Mom's mouth trembled. I don't know how to do this without it turning into something, she whispered. It already is something, I said. It's been something for years. You just keep putting it in the hallway. Mom flinched at that, but she didn't argue. I wish I could end this with a perfect apology and a neat resolution. It didn't happen. Mom didn't suddenly become brave and protective. Dad didn't step in and say the right thing. My family didn't have an emotional group hug and fix decades of quiet hierarchy. But something did change. Grandma said out loud, not in a passive-aggressive way, not in a let's move on way. She said it plainly. No one should have to shrink to belong. And now that it's been said, I can't unhear it. The reunion began with my mom telling me to sit in the hallway until people settle, like I was the unstable piece of furniture that might tip the room into discomfort. It ended with my grandma reminding everyone, especially me, that the problem was never my presence. It was the way they'd been trained to treat my presence as negotiable. I don't know what comes next. I know Mom will want to pretend it was a misunderstanding. I know she'll be defensive the next time it comes up. I know she'll probably tell herself she was protecting me. But I also know I'm not going back to a hallway because it makes other people comfortable. I'm too old for that. I'm too tired. And for the first time in my life, I have someone in the family who said it in front of everyone. I don't have to earn my place by disappearing.